Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:30 p.m. and a quorum of members is present, so the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District New Berlin is called to order. Diana, please call the roll.
Mr. David.
Here.
Mr. Kugler.
Here.
Mr. Kurth.
Here.
Ms. Manley.
Here.
Sorry. Mr. Maxey.
Here.
Mr. Nickerson.
Here.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to, in consideration of movement into closed session pursuant of section 19.85, 1 C, E, and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider C, job performance, compensation, and employment of the public employee over which the Board of Education has jurisdiction, exercises responsibility, E, deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And F, to review personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons which, if discussed in public, would likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any persons referred to in such histories and data. Board to discuss and have possible action on A, approval of closed session minutes of May 12, 2014, B, employment performance compensation matters pertaining to staff.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kurth, second by Mrs. Manley. Please call the roll.
Mr. David.
Yes.
Mr. Kugler.
Yes.
Mr. Kurth.
Yes.
Ms. Manley.
Yes.
Mr. Maxey.
Yes.
Mr. Nickerson.
Yes.
Ms. Crosby.
Yes.
We'll be adjourning to closed session, returning to open session around 7 p.m.
Connecting to academic medicine is easy. The Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network is making more possible for more people than ever before. Call 1-800-DOCTORS or visit Froedtert.com.
Test.
The Cincinnati insurance companies are everything insurance should be. Our independent agents and local claim service are so exceptional, our policyholders have to find new things to worry about, like Mosorophobia. Find your local agent at CINFIN.com.
That'd be great. I can do that. You have one tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are returning from closed session to open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by posting the agenda at each district school, the district office, and the city library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. Copies of the agenda were forwarded to the Waukesha Freeman, the New Berlin Now, and the Journal Sentinel, all of which had filed requests for all public notices. We'll begin this evening with recognitions. And we're starting that with the World Affairs Seminar students. Thank you, Larry. There.
Thank you. If I could ask the World Affairs Seminars scholarship recipients to come on up. We're proud to represent 4 students at the World Affairs Seminar this coming summer. We have David Bashensky from New Berlin Eisenhower, Brandon Ewer from New Berlin Eisenhower, Dimitri Becker, and Austin Pajak, who are all attending. Both Austin and Dimitri are from New Berlin West. We're excited to send the 4 students, co-sponsored by the New Berlin Rotary, to the week-long event. The week-long event will be held at Carroll University the week of June 21st through the 27th. The focus this year is focusing on world health, issues and responsibilities. There's going to be several keynote speakers throughout the week, as well as small group and peer-led discussions, and some interesting field trips that the kids are going to be able to take, including down to MSOE and the biomedical sciences labs, do some water discussions down at Discovery World, as well as some other local trips that students will all become engaged in some of the health connections around the world. As an interesting note of As an interesting point, I guess, we found out that Milwaukee Public Schools is able to offer 10 students to attend the World Affairs Seminar. We're lucky enough in New Berlin, with our partnership with the New Berlin Rotary, to send 4 students through the scholarship application. So we have a very good representation, and we're excited to have our students attend this summer again. Third year in a row that we're able to sponsor 4 students from New Berlin and share their experiences and become really great discussion points on a world stage, because we have students that attend the World Affairs Seminar from across the globe. So we're excited to offer this to our students and hope they have a fantastic time.
We look forward to having you back to tell us what you learned and how the overall impression of the experience. And who's here for the Blitz? Yes. It's okay, too. If you want, you can just leave it there, and we'll play with it when we're done.
Yeah, we'll get right on that. Members of the board, thank you very much for having us here this evening. I am John Budish, and I am principal and proud to be principal at New Berlin West. We're here this evening to do kind of a dual purpose. We're going to let the board have a little fun. I think we might even shoot something at you. Also recognize a group of students who have had a great opportunity to participate in an event related to the FIRST Robotics competition. So at this point, I would actually ask that Mr. Crack and Ms. McKinnon step forward. Mr. Crack and Ms. McKinnon are 2 of the teachers, one from West, one from Eisenhower. Mr. Crack teaches mathematics here at West, and Ms. McKinnon teaches a variety of tech ed classes over at New Berlin Eisenhower. The 2 of them chose to join several other mentors, which we will recognize a little bit later on, in helping to get off from the ground floor our first time experience with the FIRST Robotics competition. FIRST Robotics is the largest competition of its kind in the world. There are teams from many different countries, all 50 states, all kinds of participation, and our students got to participate in that through both the efforts of these 2 mentors and the efforts of a number of other volunteer mentors, as well as a great deal of community support. Because what you're about to see in terms of the student demonstration that you're going to see doesn't necessarily come for free. There was a significant financial contribution from a number of different sponsors, and we're really appreciative of that sponsorship. We do want to just briefly tell you a little bit about what the purpose behind FIRST is, and that is, FIRST is actually an acronym. It stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, and its intent is to lure students into the field of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, by creating a very engaging and very rewarding experience for them. I've been involved with the FIRST program for many, many years, even back when I was teaching. And I will tell you that amongst all the things I've experienced, it's one of the best at doing what it is designed to do, and that's get kids to pursue education and careers in that related field. So we hope that we've been able to provide a great experience for these students, and that we're off to a really good start. So I'm going to let Ms. McKinnon and Mr. Crack just speak briefly a little bit about the program and their experiences this year, and we'll get the student demonstration off in just a few moments.
Good evening, members of the school board. As you stated, my name is Ms. McKinnon, and I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit what our experience was this year. He did a very good job about telling you what FIRST Robotics is truly about, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of in-depth knowledge about what we were doing as a team. So we started this team at the beginning of the school year, nearly around October. During the preseason, we called it, we brought in a lot of the different mentors. A lot of the adult mentors are back there. They're professionals from the community. At that time, what they did is they actually ran the classroom. So it was not the two of us up there teaching them like a traditional way. These mentors came in from their profession and showed them things that they're doing in the profession to be able to do this robot. So they showed them design processes that are used in the profession, different programming methods used in the profession itself. We even had some HR people come in and show the students how to run a business. We do operate as a small business, so the students do create budgets, do presentations, run meetings, and all of that stuff there too. So it's not only just the robot, we do also have students that are fundraising, solving all those there. In about January, we received our game from FIRST. The game changes every year, and then we have 6 weeks to build that robot. During that 6 weeks, the students design the entire robot themselves. They are given a small kit of parts. The kit of parts gives us things like motors, the brain of the robot, each of those parts there to be able to put into it. However, all the metal and all of that fabrication around it, what the robot's going to do is completely up to the students. Again, they only have 6 weeks to build this robot. At the end of the 6 weeks, the robot gets bagged up and cannot be touched. After that, we have a few more meetings preparing ourselves for the regional competition. This year we competed at the Wisconsin Regional in Milwaukee. At that competition, our robot did fairly well. We were able to compete every single match, which is huge for a rookie team. But we also won an award there, which is a very prestigious award for rookies. We won the Rookie All-Star Award. The Rookie All-Star Award is given to the rookie team that shows the best first ideas. It's the idea that we are supporting the FIRST mission, inspiring students for science and technology. Okay. The students embed that in themselves and also you can see it within our parents that it was definitely there. That award allowed us to win a spot for the world competition. We also went down to Worlds, that was in St. Louis. In St. Louis, the students brought the robot there. We won 6 of our 10 matches while we were there, which was wonderful. And we also learned a lot. We saw teams that were way beyond our skill, that we just stole all of their ideas from and took pictures so we can do them next year. Students even on Facebook, they have the fever right now. They're like, how do we get a ton of students involved? What's the science of technology doing? So the students are here tonight. They want to show you guys how our robot works. They want to move it around for you guys. And then they also want you guys to try it, maybe 1 or 2 of you, see if you guys can drive it as well as they can. So they'd like to give you that challenge a little bit there. So if this here was our drive team, they can drive it. If they wanted to come up here and tell them a little bit about the robot specifically as it's driving, that's okay too, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You'll see it do a lot. And the students did pour a lot of effort into this. We do have a lot of the other students here. They were not part of the drive team at the competition, so they did not actually physically drive the robot. Things that they did was scout, market our team, of course cheer on our team, fix the robot when they brought it back broken. So our team was definitely all involved. They kind of make little subgroups and definitely become a family to be able to do this entire robot item. So I'm going to hand it off to you guys. You can do whatever you'd like.
Okay, thank you. Right now we're going to demonstrate our robot for you. So we're going to start by enabling it.
So right now, we're just driving it. How the drive system works is one joystick controls one side and the other controls the other. To turn, you would put one forward and the other back. And then to go forward, you just push both joysticks forward, and to go backward, you push them both back. You can also switch between high and low gear, which is just changing speed to allow you to move up and down the field faster. And then besides driving, there's also an arm on the robot, which right now is not functioning correctly. So we won't be moving it very much, but we can still shoot the ball. How we shoot the ball is we turn on a vacuum. Okay, you can fire up. And then when you want to fire it, you just pull the trigger and a piston extends. The piston deforms the ball and creates internal pressure in it, and the internal pressure pushes the ball forward.
Okay, so an explanation about our drive team and what we did at the competition. The competition consisted of 3 robots versus 3 robots, and the goal was to get this ball into a large hole on the opposite side of the field. Various robots will play defense, and you gain more points by passing and assisting to each robot. I drive the drive chain. I control the wheels. Robert here, he's in 8th grade. He controls our arm and our shooter. He shoots the goals. Max here, he's our drive coach. He's the one who tells us what to do. Honestly, we're not doing much except for listening to Max. And then we have Michael. Michael's our human player who feeds the ball from outside to our robot. So that's about it. Now, would anyone from the board like to drive the robot?
I will break it. I'll leave it up to these guys. Go ahead, Nate.
Don't worry.
Nate.
We have bumpers on this. Oriented so you can. Yeah, there. So. Don't
People in the front row, you may want to. Yeah.
Nice job.
Of course. My pleasure. Anyone else like to drive the robot?
We didn't break it. I can break it. I know I can.
That's what they want to hear.
Nicely done. Good job. That's cool. I want one of those.
We get the robot to turn the microphone on. Robot sabotaged.
There we go. Let's give our students a quick round of applause. As with most engineering projects, those that work in related fields, they would very commonly tell you that you find multiple applications for very common parts. The pieces of this robot are commonly used in many other ways. We've got a giant vacuum on there. It actually, at the Wisconsin Regional, at the risk of using just a little choice language, we were actually dubbed by many other teams the robot that literally sucks, because we did. And we were the only one to have that kind of design at that competition, so it was actually something that set us apart. Most other teams had some sort of grabbing mechanism or something to physically try to collect it. We had the vacuum to collect that ball. I've been involved with multiple teams, and I would say that as a rookie level performance, this was the best that I've ever seen. They did very, very well for themselves. We have a great deal to be very proud of, and we have great things in store for the future for this team. So I want to personally extend my congratulations to the students for their hard work, and also to recognize the mentors all right here in the back, who were also involved in helping to form and create this fantastic experience. So let's give them a round of applause as well. At this point, we'll do the individual recognitions. I'd ask Ms. McKinnon and Mr. Crack to come back up. Students, when we call your name, if you would please, if you would come along and form a line actually right along the front here. Parents, if any of you want a photo opportunity, the board typically is very receptive to you actually stepping beside them to get that photo opportunity. So if we can go through that. Pranav Adavi. Sarah Bauer. Kyle Berther. Sarah, you're supposed to stay up front here. Michael Berther. Ben Blair. I'm going to suggest that you may hold your applause. There are 44 of them. Brandon Bukta. Zachary Burberry. Bradley Burns. Benjamin Chapin. Zachary Cieslik. Almost butchered that. Andrew Hinsman. Joseph Jika. Pranav Kalaketi. Max Kallenberger. Nitish Kata. Jacob Korducki. Sorry, Jacob, that probably wasn't the best. Jacob's in here twice. We won't give him 2 certificates. Becca Martin. Michael Marvel. Sarfaraz Muhammad. Momin Mois. Sean Moore. Matt Nyman. Robert Schwiegel. You guys can start forming a line over this way on that side of Mr. Crack. They're all afraid of Mr. Crack. Theodore Spitz. Scott Tom. Bill Van Zyl. Amy Vogel. Megan Ward. Conrad Wiebe. Mackenzie Wiebe. Nate Zabel. Tony Bishop. These are the mentors now, sorry. Matthew Denzen. Curtis Doan. There are even more mentors than are actually here. Jasper Mazik, who I'd like to point out is a former graduate of my former school in Franklin, and not here. Jeff Ball. Tom Peterson. Wesley Taylor. Pete Thomas. Michael Wiebe. Come on, there's 3 left. Can't even get it open. Paul Zellinger. Michael Crack. And Devin McKinnon. Another quick round of applause. Just to show the impact of this while they're all up here, would those students who are thinking of pursuing a career in engineering, science, or technology in some way, shape, or form after they leave the school district of Berlin, step forward? All but one. And apparently we're working on the one. So, thank you very much for having us here this evening. We really appreciate the opportunity to come before you. We're very proud of the work that's been done around this, and we look forward to being able to come forward and represent the school district of New Berlin in this way and with great success down the road. So once again, thank you very much, team. Thank you, board. Thank you, community. Guys on this side, kind of gather over here. We're going to try to get a big group photo.
Impressive.
Hmm?
Cool. Wow. I didn't do stuff like that when I was growing up.
We'll just take a short recess as a board for photos and
It's funny. Excuse me, what are the boys doing with those? Yeah, with the khaki or the plaid shorts. He didn't get his certificate. The plaid shorts. Okay, great. Thank you.
at this time, most of our award recipients stay for the duration of the meeting. Trying a different tact. Usually I let you know that most people run out. So today you're welcome to stay. We're going to have a great discussion on budget, facility. No? All right.
Andy, you have to stay, sorry. want to sit by you.
I think he was recognized. That is, isn't it?
Mike.
Just FYI. Well, Susan sometimes says things that she shouldn't say.
I was going to ask Nate to parallel park it, but I didn't think that was fair. The next item on our agenda is privilege of the floor, and we do not have any requests for privilege of the floor. So that brings us to our president's message. As a veteran, Memorial Day means a lot to me. So I want to thank the mayor, the veterans of VFW Post 5716, the New Berlin Boy Scouts, the New Berlin Band, Alderman President Ken Herenda, State Assemblyman Joe Sanfilippo and Mike Kuglich, and the countless other volunteers who give of their own time to honor the men and women who gave their lives so we can enjoy the freedoms that come with life in America. Every year, these individuals put on a great ceremony at the cemetery on Greenfield and Moreland. And if you have not been, I highly recommend that you attend. It is a very moving ceremony. The next item on the agenda is the administrative team report. Eileen, can you please bring us up to speed on the WKCE update?
I am actually very excited to bring you an update. You know, after the World Affairs seminar, folks getting their awards, and after robotics, now you get to listen to data. You could not have a more exciting night than this.
Yeah,
So, I'm thrilled.
That's why I only mentioned the budget and the facilities conversation, because I think if I had mentioned this, they'd have stayed.
They'd be here. Absolutely. Full audience wanting to know more about the state assessment results. So I have a variety of things to share, I think, centering on these pieces. One is, how do we look compared to previous years? How do we look as far as within the district, us compared to ourselves? What does New Berlin look like when we compare to other districts, both the Woodland Conference and some districts that we consider our benchmark districts? Districts around us, districts that touch us, or other high-achieving districts. And I'll give you just a really quick look at what assessment looks like next year from the state's perspective. And then just share some things with you that I've noticed or we've noticed from the data. So very first thing that I want to share with you is just the color coding. You'll notice that the first graphs are from the bottom up. So the advanced is that bluish color. It's more, this looks a little bit more green to me. Proficient is pink, basic yellow, and orangish is the minimal. These are the four categories that state assessment results students fall into with the state assessment results. What I want to share with you, though, is that proficiency levels from one year to the next. Some people think that, well, if you stay the same, you must not have grown. For students to stay within a proficiency level, so for example, if the student is at the proficient category in 5th grade, to stay in the proficient category in 6th grade, they have to grow in their knowledge and skills. And the reason that is because the state categories are done by scale scores. The scale scores increase with every year. So the student has to learn new material, increase and get higher scale scores just to stay within a proficiency level. So growth can be actually staying the same and, of course, moving up. I know that these are busy, but there's a lot of information on them. I believe that you also have copies. Here's my laser. Okay, so this side is reading. And what I wanted to do is show you reading on the left, math on the right, with state scores underneath. Now, if you look again from the bottom up, that bottom level is advanced, that bright pink is proficient. The things that I want to point out to you, in the area of reading, there is some growth as the district. There is a very tiny bit of growth at the state. When we look at math, you can see the height of the peak over on the side here, how it's going up. The blue has risen, so that means that we've got more students in the advanced category. And I can't see the numbers from where I'm standing. This is a little too bright. But because of the number of advanced, we have raised our proficiency in advanced totals. We've done the same way in reading, not quite as large a jump, but we have gone up. The state has pretty much stayed, gone up a little bit, but not to the extent that we have. In fact, if you want the exact numbers, we've gone up almost 2% collectively in reading and about 5% in math, 5% of students proficient in advanced more than last year, where the state 0.4% in reading compared to our 2%, 0.5% in math compared to our 5%. So we're growing at a level certainly faster than the state. If we look at the next categories, what I've done is break down two of our larger subgroups. One is students with disabilities, and one is our free and reduced lunch or economically disadvantaged population. Now here what I've done is shown you again on the left, students with disabilities, to show again, huge increase here in reading from one year to the next year. You can tell by the level, well, I'm sorry, not a huge increase in reading, a huge increase in the number of students in proficient, advanced, or basic. We have definitely shrunk the minimal category. In math, you can see that there is a large jump in the number of students proficient advanced. This is something that we're working on. We're trying to reduce those gaps that we see within our subgroups, and we have seen effect here. Now, if you take a look at how does that compare to the state, you can see that the state actually decreased this year in the area of reading, and it stayed the same in the area of math, with 48%, where we're quite a bit higher than that. Taking a look at our students who are in the economically disadvantaged category, you can see in reading, it's an area that we need to grow in. Our students are more at level or leveled off. It's something that we continue to work on with the things that we're doing in order to boost student achievement. You can see, however, in math, again, there is an increase. I've lost my little. There's an increase in the percent of students who are proficient and advanced in math. So, good news on I think all three of those fronts. If you'd like to see elementary compared to secondary, so I showed you the whole school, the district combined, elementary compared to secondary, elementary on the left in reading, secondary on the right, and you can see in both cases again, slight increases in reading. Now, just a reminder that a few years ago, if you're looking at the proficiency levels and you're seeing that they appear lower, for example, than they do in math, if you remember a couple years ago, the state changed the proficiency levels in reading because of the NAEP test scores. It is much more difficult to be at that proficient and advanced stage in reading across the state than it ever was before. In reading, if you want to take a look at all of the schools, I don't plan on spending much time on here, but what I do want to point out is that all schools are showing growth. Some schools faster than others, but all schools are showing growth in the area of reading. If we take a look then at math comparatively in the district, you'll see that at the elementary and secondary, our students grew at both levels compared to last year. We have higher levels of proficiency level. In fact, we have all-time highs in reading and in math. And then again, if you want to take a quick look at the schools, you can see again that we have made bigger gains in math, and all of the schools are achieving at higher levels. Before I get on to this complex graph, obviously, you know, when the scores come out, we know that hope isn't a strategy. I mean, we've put several things in place to want the scores to get better, but until we actually see them, we don't know what's going to happen. Actually, because of the amount of things that we've put into place, starting last year, we didn't know if there would be like an implementation dip, because sometimes there is. When we try a whole lot of new things, the scores could actually go down. Now, we had hoped that that would not be the case, because we put some really good things into place, some things like map testing and using the map data in order to tailor instruction around the needs of students. We've put in some responses to both our accelerated students and our students who need some help to boost them in both cases. We've purchased Compass Learning and are using it at a variety of grade levels. We've done a lot of professional learning in English language arts, or more specifically in the area of reading, and then in the area of math. As you know, you approved resources last year for math, and we have new resources implemented this year. So there are a lot of things that we've done to try to make that consistent approach across the district. I'd like to think that we're seeing here that our initial stages are working. I believe that these will continue to grow. But what do we look like compared to other districts? Because just looking at ourselves, we don't know. So I want to show you just a couple slides with other districts. It's a little bit more complex in this case, but what you can see is we're going more importantly, I think the one that's easier to take a look at is the line itself. That line is the adding of proficient and advanced. So it combines proficient and advanced for each of those districts that are listed there. If you can see the districts, what we have across the top or across the bottom are those districts that are the Woodland Conference districts. So we have Brown here, we have Cudahy, we have Greendale, Greenfield, New Berlin. We have Pewaukee, South Milwaukee, Sherwood, Wauwatosa, and Whittle. This line shows their combined proficient and advanced. So Brown here you can see is a 41.41. Where are we? Right here at the top. And that is in math. So let's take a look at reading. We have the same districts. And again, you can see by the blue arrow where we are, again, right at where the top is. So those are the Woodland Conference districts, but we also have districts that we compare ourselves to that are benchmark districts. Those districts, I'm going to come over here so I can read it again. This first district right here is Elmbrook. We have Menominee Falls. This is Hamilton, Moraine, Mukwonago, Muskego. Here's New Berlin, Oconomowoc, St. Francis, West Dallas, and Whitefish Bay. So that first graph is what you're seeing in reading. You can see by that first graph that they're third from the top. Let's take a look again at math. And you can see the same districts running across at math. There's one district that is Dallas, and that is Elmbrook. So, my question then, and the question of the administrators in the district were, well, did Elmbrook grow as much as we did? Because, I mean, they're better than us right now. We want to continue to grow. Not that we're competitive at all, but we want to continue to grow. So that next graph that I showed you here, it shows us and it shows Elmbrook. Now, we are across the top, and I've got some information to share with you. So Elmbrook is along the bottom in the chart. What happened last year, if we look at reading specifically, is between us and the school district of Elmbrook, there was a 4.3% gap. So they were ahead of us by 4.3 in reading. This year, it's a 3.3. In math, last year there was a 6.7% gap. This year, there's a 3.8% gap. So what does that mean as far as our growth? This year in reading, we grew 1.7%, Elmbrook 0.7%. In math, we grew 6.5%, Elmbrook 1.6%. And I could have chosen any of the other districts, they just happened to be first on the chart, so I looked at them first, and there's only 2 that were ahead of us. So what I want to share with you here is that we are closing that gap as well. And I think that that's a really positive sign, that if we grow just the same way or amount that everybody else in the state does, that's good, that's fine, but it's not different. We're making greater gains than both the state and one of our benchmark comparisons. So I think that that's really good news. Just have 2 more things to show you. One is one that you can take a look at more clearly on the papers that, or the computer screens that you have in front of you. Next year, there's a lot of different testing that the state is doing. It will give us even more information to share with you. We do plan to look at the data and use that data because it is a variety of different tests that our students will be given. And in those tests, many of them are their learning experiences in and of themselves. The questions are very thought-provoking. They will engage the students into new applications of this in the subjects of reading, language arts, and math. Just a few things that I wanted to mention to you that we thought were just observations, but good observations. First, in reading and math, we are at all-time highs in the district over the past 5 to 6 years. We're not all growing at the same pace, not all grade levels are growing at the same pace, but we are growing, and we've got things in place to help the growth continue. We are designing different processes, we are moving in the positive direction, we've got English language arts resources being looked at, professional learning continuing to grow across the district. We're already planning well into next year. But we'll continue to monitor those subgroup differences. We'll continue to monitor the things that we need to in order to have that growth be a consistency, not just a one-year thing, but that we continue to grow and flourish in the district. We do want to say thank you very much. You've been extremely supportive in the things that we're trying to do and in the programs that we're implementing, so we do appreciate your help. Without your help, that could not happen. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Or deflect.
Eileen, I'm very impressed with these results because I remember that was 2 years ago that the reading scores, because of the standards being adjusted.
Yes.
And I've seen those now up. And I think I've asked you this question before. What surprised you the most about seeing all these results together?
I think what surprised me probably the most, very pleasantly surprised me, is the consistent growth across both reading and math, and then the differences in our subgroups in math especially. That we're putting some things into place. We're trying, again, we have more work to do, but what we're doing seems to be paying off. So that was a very pleasant surprise.
Did you expect, I mean, I saw some really significant growth here. Did you expect that?
No. No. I'd like to say that I did. I mean, it was, again, hope, not a strategy, but we were hoping that this would play out the way it did. We were seeing some great results with the MAP testing, some larger gains than we had seen in the past, even though we only have done it for 1 year. And that is a predictor of WKCE success as well. So we were, again, thinking, oh, maybe it will happen, and it did. So, good thing.
They're outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks.
Susan?
Yeah, just a quick question. I agree, outstanding. So how exciting to see everything trending in that
Yes.
direction. I just had a quick question on Elmbrook. It just stuck with me that they took quite a leap of 10 points and they've maintained and continued that growth in math. Do you have any idea what took place there that it had such an impact?
It's hard to know because so many things take place. There were a variety of different things that were done there. One of the things, there were some new resources implemented. They worked on some things with the ACT readiness skills pieces with the students. But as far as what, I really can't pinpoint exactly what happened, no.
Okay, and I just have another quick question. Again, because because they are higher, even though we're definitely getting very close, do you share with the different school districts what they're doing so you can get some insight on lessons learned?
We do ask in specific instances as far as what are you doing to make these scores happen. We've had contact with Shorewood and Whitefish Bay in the past. We have connections in Elmbrook as well. So it is a matter of, what are you doing to make it work? And I'm hoping this year some districts are calling us and saying, hey, what did you do?
Exactly, yeah.
What are you doing over there in New Berlin?
Fantastic, thank you.
I know for my house, the Compass Learning has helped a lot. Can you just kind of outline what Compass Learning is? And I know it may differ from one student to another, but my students log in, and are they all the same? And
Actually, Compass can be used.
What would you recommend for parents who want to get their kids using it at home as well as in the classroom?
I would say that Compass can be used in multiple different ways. The most common way that it's used is through the MAP scores that students get. Compass Learning automatically creates a pathway for each student. They are individualized according to the strengths and challenge areas of every student. So in that pathway, they will get a backpack that says, do this lesson, and there's instruction with it. Do these activities. There's tests involved to make sure that students understand what they were taught within the backpack lessons, and then they move on to the next. With each MAP administration, a new backpack arrives on their screen. So as far as, it's an excellent tool. It's a one-on-one tutoring tool almost for students. For parents who want to get involved, if they don't know the login procedures, we can send them out. All of the schools have the login procedures for parents. Students know what to do when they get on the screen. The backpack is there, and they can use it as much time as they want at home as well. It is available just through having the internet.
I know my daughter kind of makes it her own challenge to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of made learning fun for her, or well, it has made learning fun, not kind of.
Great, that's really good to hear.
Yeah. Any other? Well, thank you, Eileen.
Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. And we have a secondary programming update.
Good evening. I have been asked to give an update on what was ELO. We're changing it just a little bit, maybe changing a little bit the look and feel of it, keeping some, hopefully keeping the good, and adjusting and changing so we still improve. A little bit of the background on this. Prior to this, I believe it was in January, there was approval by the Board of Education that the high school day will be from 7:30 to, start at 7:30, be from 7:30 to 3 p.m. So we put together a committee to look at what is currently ELO and asked people for feedback. And that committee included administrators. It included, I believe, Larry was part of that, leading that. Scott Carr asked that I mention his name this evening, so I want to make sure that that's on the record. Matt Buckley was also part of that from the administrative. We had some teachers on that team. We had parents on that team. We also had students on that team providing us some feedback on ELO and what they liked and where the challenges were. From that feedback, one of the things that we wanted to do was to continue some of the supports and some of the feeling from our students and our parents and our staff that the academic supports that were part of ELO and the opportunities for students to meet with teachers remained, but also expand further and to be able to accomplish some of those things that maybe don't fit as nicely into the curricular part of our day and create that opportunity for students within that. So that common feeling of the support that ELO had, we're going to keep. The shift on the day where it's going to look a little bit different is we're going to start first hour at 7:30. Right now ELO is at 7:30, so we're going to start that first hour at 7:30, continue through our day and provide that opportunity for our student support at the end of the day, rather than the beginning of the school day. So that time for students will look at from 2:30 to 3 p.m. rather than from 7:30 to 8 p.m. Allows us a consistent start to the school day, allows all of our students to arrive at the same time, to start their day at the same time, to get us off and running. Also provides for ELO, which will be on Tuesday. I'll explain this a little bit more as I go, but on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, where that ELO, that academic support time, structured time for students that way, allows that time to start at 2:30, but doesn't necessarily require it to end at 3 p.m., depending on what the needs of a student are, the needs of students are, the availability of a teacher. That time for students will be required for students in grades 7, 8. That's consistent with where we are right now. It will be optional for students in 9 through 12 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. On Wednesdays, we're adjusting, and we're going to have what we call an advisory period, and that will be for all students. And one of the things that we lacked in our current structure was the time to focus on those specific necessary needs and supports for students by grade level. So when we looked at those, some things like digital citizenship, which we implemented this year, but we struggled to find time within the curriculum to be able to implement successfully. It was part of our digital concepts course. Now with that course adjusting and changing, we're looking for that opportunity to keep that. Academic and career planning, and we know this has been a focus as we look at college and career readiness in our district, finding that specific time with teachers. In this scenario, our students will be in class sizes of about 20 per teacher, and that teacher will have time to interact with them. We'll have those students each week. We'll be able to get to know them, get to know their interests, be able to talk with them about what those academic and career plans are, and this is in addition to the counseling that students get through our counseling office. MAP review and goal setting, you heard Eileen talk about the improvement in our student achievement recently, and some of that is through the assessment work of MAP, but the assessment work is only valuable if we have a dialogue with students. We set goals for student achievement beyond that. We're allowed to take the time to be able to talk with students about where that score aligns with what their future learning will be in the area of literacy and math. So some of that time. Talk about individual progress monitoring, looking at report cards, giving feedback to students on their progress in that way. And then especially for our juniors, using this time a little bit more for an ACT prep, as all of our juniors will be taking the ACT. Right now we have about 90% of our juniors taking the ACT or just under. Next year it will be 100% of our juniors taking that ACT. So that Wednesday time creates more focus for students, and that's a for all. So that school day for students will continue to be on Monday. The school day would be 7:30 to 2:30. We would have collaborative time for teachers, which is now Thursday morning, would move to that Monday afternoon. Then ELO would be Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. That would be, the day would continue till 3 o'clock. Some of our high school students would have the opportunity to have an earlier release if they didn't have needs specific to that ELO. And then Wednesday, we would continue till 3 o'clock with all of our students with the focus that I identified. So that was a mouthful in a real quick period of time. Are there any questions related to that?
Susan?
I just have a quick question. And I understand what you're doing and how you're switching it, but are you, and I know this is the wrong reason to be worried about something because it's educational focus, not traffic, but are you worried about the traffic at the schools with more people arriving at the exact same time versus a little bit of a stagger right now?
One of the things we're doing right now is we're doing a traffic study. I'm looking at Roger because we're doing a traffic study at Eisenhower right now. So if you're speaking to that side of town, we do have some traffic challenges relative to arrival time. Prior to the last 2 years, we had everybody arriving at 7:20. And one of the things that may happen is more students may take the bus than be getting rides in cars if we have a consistent start time to our day. Right now it's staggered. The other thing we have is right now we have students arriving at, it's interesting the large number of students that arrive for a 7:30 time rather than the 8 o'clock time. So our slow part in traffic is at 8 o'clock time. So will there be challenges around that start time? Yes. Not different than we have experienced prior. And I think appropriate communication will help to support that work.
We're also addressing that in two ways. We're doing a traffic study to see if we can convince the city to allow us to put in a stoplight on the northern drive. Southern drive. And then we also have started the work at redesigning the whole entrance so that you're not driving on top of people when you're trying to get around them, that are going into the building.
Great.
So we're addressing both of those as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, the changes that he's talking about will happen a year before the changes I'm offering.
Say September?
Michael, have we made plans for the students that don't need ELO time on those days where ELO is provided? Will they still be able to stay? And I'm assuming the bus schedule will run on the ELO?
Every student, high school or middle school required, high school, all have the opportunity to stay and get assistance and support from a teacher. All teachers are available during this time. Our school day does not end until 3 p.m. So when you say, will there be those opportunities for students? The answer is absolutely yes. Part of our question and part of our challenge is what opportunities do we provide for students in addition to just that general support and that general help? How do we provide extension opportunities? What are some of the different activity opportunities that we can provide for students? We have committed that our athletic and those type of activities will not start until the end of the school day, so that's consistent with now, because we don't want there to be a conflict in what those students are doing and where their focus could be during that time. That doesn't mean that there couldn't be a focused study hall for maybe the volleyball team or that type of thing during that time, if they have practice that starts a short time after school. So we're looking for some of those opportunities. Right now we have some of those in music and art for certain. We're looking to expand those into some of the more core academic areas as well.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions? Jeff?
Actually, mine's for Roger. I know we had worked out a bus schedule. I know this is going back to the traffic thing, but we had worked on a bus schedule about 2 years ago. Is this in conflict with anything that we had set up in the past, or?
No, the bus schedules and the bus contract allows for changing on an annual basis. This modification should not have too dramatic of an impact, but we're going to be sitting down with the bus company in a couple of days and get that determined.
Susan?
Oh, I just had one quick question. How is this getting shared with parents so they can plan?
We are working on that communication right now to share it fully with our entire school staff and to share it with parents and students. So you're getting this information as new as it is. We've had these discussions as of even today yet, trying to continue to build the frame around this.
Okay, but before school's out, it'll...
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Likely within the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we have no more questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And Tom Carr. The next item on the agenda is the district reports. Are there any questions regarding what was provided in the packet? Hearing none. Tom, can you please read the donation report?
Certainly. The board would very much like to thank our donors, beginning with the Aetna Foundation, with a $66 donation to Orchard Lane. William Van Zyl, a $1,000 donation for robotics to New Berlin West and Ike. The New Berlin West softball boosters raised $1,556 for coaches. Ronald Reagan Holman School raised $6,535 for co-curriculars. The Ike Parents in Concert raised $746.92 for a podium for the orchestra and music department. There were various sponsors that donated $5,055 for Ike's prom. The Ike Baseball Boosters donated $3,051 for new uniforms. PPG Industries donated $650 for a speaker, a speaker for MS. Joy Global donated $1,500 to New Berlin West and Ike for robotics. The Ike Football Boosters The next two are Ike Football Boosters. They have an annual payment of $10,000 and new varsity uniforms for $6,422. And we are very grateful for all of our donors to our district.
Thank you, Tom. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Tom, second by Mr. Nickerson to accept the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. This brings us to our regular agenda. Roger, can you tee these items up for us?
Certainly. The two items that I have on the regular agenda, the long-range facilities maintenance plan and the preliminary budget, are related. The first one is the long-range facilities maintenance plan. This is just an update to the facilities plan that we finally got adopted last year. The document is arranged in a very similar fashion so that it repeats some of the information you've seen before, particularly the rating system that we use. I do want to point out that the page numbers on the very first page have nothing to do with the page numbers where the actual data is found. And I also did not include anything in this report on the status of the ESCO project. So I'll just really talk about that first. You do recall you approved borrowing $8.2 million for a number of energy and operational efficiency projects. Those are proceeding very much on schedule. The primary amount of work is being done at Eisenhower, but there is work being done at every single building. But you'll see a very heavy flurry of activities come the first Monday after school is out, as the work on the ESCO projects speeds up more, and we add a whole bunch of other projects to what's going on this summer. So just wanted to let you know that the ESCO projects are on time, on budget, and progressing nice and smoothly. The purpose of this plan is to lay out what we believe are the priorities for the facilities maintenance, and to give you an idea of how we think that those priorities will be met. The idea is to target about $1.2 million per year for facility maintenance projects. Now, I want you to understand that is actually a very generous amount of money for a school district this size. And we certainly appreciate the board making the efforts to make this money available for the facilities department. However, it still is not sufficient because of the long period of time this district did not take care of its facilities, and we still have significantly a large number of unfunded and unscheduled maintenance projects. So the maintenance plan itself is for the next 5 years, approximately $1.2 million a year, and it identifies the specific projects that we will be undertaking. The amount of money, $1,182,000, which identified here in the 2015 maintenance plan, is incorporated in the preliminary budget that I'll be talking about in a minute. But I do want to focus a little bit on things that are not included in the plan. We have identified in our long-range facilities maintenance plan over $22 million worth of items that are unscheduled. That means that we know that it needs to be done. We just have not quite figured out where to put them yet and how to come up with the funding. So we'll be coming back to you with the second meeting in June with an idea not for all 22 million, but for those things that we believe are the highest priority. The highest priority items we think the board should look at is air conditioning for Orchard Lane and Poplar Creek. There are only two schools that are not air conditioned. And as we move more to variable scheduling, we would like to see that taking place. We'd also like to see the board give consideration to the replacement of the natatorium at Eisenhower. We've identified that many years ago as deficient. It's kind of sad, though, that that pool would be almost completed this summer had we not had to deflect the money that was intended for repairing that pool to build a softball diamond and replace locker rooms. You may recall that we were moving forward with planning for the pool, but someone wasn't happy with our progress, filed an OCR complaint. Now the money that was intended for the pool had to be deflected to another purpose, which means now that project's been delayed and is quite a bit more expensive because every year goes by, these kinds of things get more expensive. And then the third item under the energy operational efficiency projects that we think you should be giving consideration to is replacing the unit ventilators in this building with the vertical ventilators that we are installing in Eisenhower. Those ventilators have proved to be very successful. The maintenance department likes them, the staff likes them, and Wisconsin Electric does not. So we think that's a good, or We Energies does not. So we they're efficient, they're quiet, and they seem to be operating very well. So we will be bringing back to you at the, like I said, at the end of next month, more specifics as to what we would like to do in regards to the 3 projects I mentioned. So we'll identify the projects, we'll also identify a funding plan if the board would be interested in considering such. And we will also be talking about a few other projects that we think need to be addressed more rapidly, possibly using some of the proceeds from the sale of real estate that we're anticipating this next fiscal year. So with that overview, if you have any questions on the long-range facilities maintenance plan, I'll try to respond to them. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the point that you were making about the OCR complaint. If the OCR complaint would not have been made, how much could we have put towards the natatorium?
The amount of money that we had to put into the softball diamond and into the rebuilding the team locker rooms at Eisenhower is almost exactly the amount of money we would have needed to replace the natatorium. And so had we not had to do those 2 projects, as I said, that money would have been allocated and the pool would be almost done.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Does anyone care to make a motion on this, or shall we hold off until our next meeting?
Mr. President, I recommend that we have this as a discussion item only for this meeting and bring this back for a vote so we can research this a little bit further and see if there's any other questions that are brought forth.
I can definitely stand behind that. Second by Mr.
Suggestion,
Cook.
it wasn't a motion.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Sounds like we're all in support of that motion.
We're back on.
Mr. Dixon.
On the preliminary budget, I'm going to go through this somewhat in the order of the pages that are there and highlight a few items. Just quickly for public consumption, the reason for preliminary budget is to give us the authority to operate the schools starting in July 1 until the board adopts what we call the original budget. That adoption is not made until October. The reason that we have the disparity in the timeline is the school funding regulations in Wisconsin require that we know our student enrollment for the current year, that is, and that's a number that we do not know until the 3rd Friday in September. And they also require that we have a certified state aid from the Department of Public Instruction before we can finalize the budget. That number for the certified state aid is not known until October 15th. So we have a preliminary budget to give us the authority to operate the district until the board adopts the original budget, and then that sets the tone. However, the preliminary budget does identify and establish the priorities entering into the next year and the major assumptions. On page 2, I have a quick highlight that we are seeing a continuing decrease in enrollment. The number of students that are graduating from the seniors that are seniors this year will be graduating is significantly higher than the number of students that are going to be coming in the kindergarten range, and we see that trend continuing for the next 4 to 5 years, a continuing decrease in enrollment. The things that may impact that as the economy improves, we may see more people moving back out to the suburbs, but we also, that sometimes gets offset by more students going to the private schools. So we'll continue to monitor the numbers, but at this point in time, for next year and the next several years, we are seeing a continuing decrease in our enrollment. The revenue limit, we already know it's set at statutory increase of $75 per person, but there are also some other revenues that we will be entitled to this next year. There's a special categorical aid, it's called per pupil aid, and that's set at $150 per pupil for this upcoming year. So the intent of the per pupil aid is to try to move a little bit more money into the property-rich districts because we get penalized under the equalization aid formula, the membership formula aid. So it's an effort by the current legislature to equalize some of the impact on the property-rich school districts. The key expenditure assumptions is the board has already approved, and we will be budgeting an increase in wages of 3%, but with the changes in staffing and other modifications, our net increase will be 2.5% for wages. Our health and benefit costs, when I talked to you a couple of months ago, we're looking at 8% increase, but the actuaries tell us that those numbers are going to remain flat again. And this is indicative of the wisdom of the moves that we made several years ago with the passage of Act 10, and we made some significant modifications to our health benefit plan. In fact, our costs right now are projected next year will be 53% of what they were at their high point, as we reduced health benefit costs by 47%. And that has given us the flexibility to do a lot more things within the school district than we previously had. When we put together the budget, we do also include the things from the long-range maintenance facilities plan, indicated about $1,182,000, and that plan is included in this budget. But the budget also assumes we're going to sell $1,814,000, and that money has not been, quote, spoken for yet, has not been identified as to how it would be used. Probably the greatest import to you is the tax levy information. For the purposes of calculating the tax rate, I've assumed that our property values will increase 2%. I have not had the chance to confirm with the city if that's the kind of numbers they're looking to. You can see that follows a 4-year decrease in property values. With that and the increase in the tax levy, we were looking at a tax rate change of 1.75%. Projected CPI for this time frame is 1.74%, so it's right at the CPI level for the tax rate to change. We hope that you feel good. We feel good about being able to bring to you that kind of projection of a levy increase. The levy will go up about 20 cents per $1,000 of equalized. So in theory, you take the value of your home divided by 1,000 times $20 for what's left. So a $250,000 home, the increase will be about $50.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Dixon? Susan?
I do have questions. A couple things. Under the food area, there's a drop in what's expected for this year, but then it's expected to go up next year. But then there's a reduction of their student count. I'm just trying to figure out those numbers.
Did you say in the food service area?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The revenue?
Yeah,
I know you have to kind of guess, right?
I consistently under budget the food service program on both the revenue and expenditure side. And so then if we're able to outperform it, so I typically am budgeting the $1.5 million level, but we're hitting the 1.7. It may become more accurate next year because we are going to, we're giving consideration to moving 1 or 2 of our buildings out of the federal food service program on an experimental basis to see, because of all the onerous regulations that are coming to that program, we think it's time to say thanks but no thanks, and that would mean that we'd need to, but we want, rather than the whole district pulling out, we want to experiment with the districts, the schools that don't have a very high free and reduced population.
Other questions. On the fees and charges, is that tied to what we get from groups that are, such as, like, a good example is there was a donation from the football booster. Where does that show up here? And is that on track? Are we getting paid and are we offsetting those expenses we had?
Yes, we get donations in all of the various areas. The unfortunate part of the way that we do our budget, which I think is confusing to most people, is we have different funds, and that's a regulatory requirement. The one you're looking at particularly is on page 13, fees and charges. This is just for the community service fund. So this is primarily those people that are renting facilities or the users of the PAC, or we have some summer programs that we charge people for, charge the students for. But in answer to your question specifically, the donation from the Booster Club for building the concession stand, that is reflected in the debt service funds. And then they give us significant donations every year for hiring additional coaches for the teams, and those are all in the general fund. So it's kind of spread out.
Okay, that's all tracking out. And then I did have another question, I'm sorry. One second, let me just get to it. If anyone else has questions, I can.
Well, you know what, I'm going to just make a comment about that, the football boosters and that $10,000 payment. I'm going to take over Art's role as the board historian for a moment. Years ago, when the Berlin Eisenhower football boosters came to us about building the concession stand, the deal was really that they would make annual payments of $10,000. They also made a very large upfront payment in exchange that we build the concession and team room or restrooms by the football field. Essentially, it came to half the cost of that facility.
Yes, I just want to make sure we're tracking on that. And then my only other question right now is on the changes that were made with the janitorial support.
Yes.
Has that played out as it was expected to financially?
Yes, you may recall we were anticipating a $350,000 to $400,000 per year savings after the first year. First year we had some rollout costs and conversion costs, and those numbers are coming through very consistently with that. The labor savings, of course, being the biggest part. The part that we were trying to be conservative is the cost of replacement equipment and the chemicals for cleaning the floor and those kinds of things. And those numbers are also coming in line as to where we thought they should be. So it has turned out to be, from a financial point of view, it's turned out to be a very good move. Quite frankly, though, we don't get the same pride of cleaning in the buildings as we used to have, and we're trying to see if we can figure out a way to address that.
Okay. And then do you shop that around then for that contract, or is there a long-term? I don't remember what the arrangements were.
It was a 5-year contract,
Okay.
subject to satisfactory performance, and so it'll be another 2 years before we shop it again.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Roger on the budget? Okay.
It's amazing how you can stretch what you get. You stretch what you get very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would suggest on this item, we do just like the facilities and we take no action this evening. So, with that said, there's one item that needs action from closed session.
Yes. I move to approve the employment services report as presented.
Motion by Mrs. Manley, second by Mr. Kurth. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. This brings us to future meetings and dates. There'll be a board meeting here on Monday, June 9th. And here is the New Berlin West Idea Center. The graduation ceremonies will be held on June 14th. Eisenhower's will be at 10 a.m. at the football field. And Mr. Fesmeyer's in charge of making sure it doesn't rain. New Berlin West graduation will be in the field house at noon at New Berlin West. There'll be a board meeting on June 23rd, again here in the Idea Center, and again on Monday, July 14th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Motion by Mrs. Manley, second by Mr. Kugler. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned.